Hello, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Ria Stark, and I'm the Digital Engagement Manager here at TLC. And if you've been able to join our last few webinars, you know that we've been gearing up for summer and getting our school libraries ready for the end of the year. And today is no different. So as the semester winds down and items are hopefully finding their way back to the shelves, there's no better time to start looking at inventory processes, updating records in the system, and my favorite thing, making your wish lists for items you want to purchase for the fall. So before I introduce our panelist, I do want to remind you all that we are live this Wednesday afternoon. And for those of you joining us live, you get the opportunity to ask questions. So if you think of anything throughout the presentation, please add that into the questions section and we will get to those at the end. If you would like to share this video with your colleagues or rewatch it again later, it is being recorded, so you can catch the replay starting tomorrow from our website at tlcdelivers.com/webinars. And last thing, before you log out today, be sure to download the handouts for additional information about TLC and the software we will be discussing today. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Philip Green, our sales engineer for Library.Solution. He's been with TLC for about 15 years in various roles, and he did start here in support. And so he definitely knows his way around Library.Solution. Philip, thank you so much for lending your expertise for Webinar Wednesday.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Rhea. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Webinar Wednesday. Hopefully everyone is having a beautiful spring day like we are here near HQ. As Rhea mentioned, my name is Philip Green. I'm with the Library.Solution side of TLC as the sales engineer. And today we'll be looking at collection management and things such as end-of-year reporting, inventory, and some other tips and tricks and suggestions that we've received from our current customers on how to gear up for the end of your school year. So with that being said, let's change screens. And we'll start off first. Today, we're going to take a look at reporting to begin with. Reporting is probably where most of our customers tell us they begin the end of year activity. What we're looking for is identifying items that need to be tracked down before students can graduate, receive report cards, or figure out where items have mysteriously moved out from your school to other schools around your school system over the course of the year. So we'll go ahead and start by looking at Ls2 reports. Now, Ls2 reports is going to offer, if you haven't tried this before, we do offer with the Cognos platform the ability to create custom folders. And in this example, what I've done is I've used the My Content tab to create some end of year reports gathered into one particular folder. This will give system administrators the ability to easily group reports for their contributors and their staff members to gather the data they need at the end of the year for all that statistical transaction information, as well as a way to combine reports for not just single sites, but system-wide, as well as being able to run reports also for statistical groups. And if you haven't used that before, just as a reminder, one of the things you can do with statistical groups is create reporting collections, so you can see things that are happening across not just a single site, but across multiple sites or the entire system, and you have control over grouping items into collection statistical group codes. One example of this might be you would like to see what type of circulation you had over the year for your DVDs, as Bria mentioned, collection development. So we might use statistical groups to find out what DVDs are popular, or maybe what playaways circulated most often to all of our elementary school students. So statistical groups, if you haven't used those before, definitely check out the help file and preferences, or reach out to TLC support for more information about that. I'm going to start by looking at my end of year folder that I've created here called end of year reports. And based on customer feedback and support feedback that we've received from working with customers, I'm going to point out a couple of our most popular reports for end of year reporting and data gathering. The first one we're going to take a look at is our items out, overdue, lost, and fines. Here we are. And what this report's going to let me do is allow staff members at each school to see all the items that, as you see, are still out, are lost or there are fine notices outstanding against the items. You have the option to run this report and sort them by the student name if you'd like to contact students directly, or if you're in a middle school or high school environment, you could send out a set of grouped notices by the homeroom teacher to make a little bit less paperwork for the library staff. So in this example, you can see I have hundreds of pages. So we have quite a few items still out, lost, or with fines outstanding at my Brahms High School. You can also schedule these reports to run. So if you have any questions about scheduling, please definitely follow up with us or let us know that you would need help with that. We can schedule these reports to run for you so you're not having to manually run these reports, every Friday for the last month of school. That's something that can be scheduled to be automatically ran at your convenience. Another report we'd like to highlight today is the borrowers from other locations with items checked out. This is handy if your school allows ILL between your sites. This will enable teachers and staff members to locate items that students have borrowed from outside of their home school location. In this example, you can see that I have students at Brahms High School, or items at Brahms High School, but currently checked out to students or teachers at other locations. So you can see we have other locations here that have borrowed from this high school in my example. Again, a great way to locate items that are not currently showing up on your shelves, but you know that you have them, or you want to, again, reconcile those items that have been circulated outside of your school via the ILL features. Another report we'd like to highlight is the borrowers with lost items. So this is specifically students that have items that are lost. This is going to be usually a little bit of a smaller list for you if it's not a graduating student or they're not changing institution, so they're going from maybe 7th grade to 8th grade and not leaving the middle school or the junior high. So you want to just locate items that are currently lost because you're hoping maybe when they come back in the fall, they'll have those items for you again. This is going to give you the ability to just locate those lost items. So in this example, again, I'm going to select my high school here. I'm going to choose what I like, only items at this location, or again, we can look at items that are borrowed from students from other locations. We'll limit to the borrower and any item they have checked out at any school in this example. And we will not limit by the lost date. So you can see I have 6 pages of reports here. So these are going to be items that are only lost to the students at my school. So that way, if you would like, again, you could give them the benefit of the doubt, the opportunity to bring those items back the following school year, or maybe over the summertime if you have summer activities. Hopefully those items work their way back into your library. Now, another report that could be handy for you for collection development purposes is our report here, the system titles with no items. So this could be a way that you conduct weeding over the summer, or you possibly would like to review this list and use this to order items for use in the following school years. This list is going to be any title level record still in the database that has not been deleted but does not have any individual items attached. So if your catalogers have decided that they would like to delete an individual item off the record, but they anticipate using that title record again in the future, this is that list of those items. So these titles have no local holdings attached, but they are still available to view in the cataloging interface. So again, this could be used for collection development purposes or for weeding. And again, I wanted to mention that we do have those reports for you, the circulation counts by holdings codes and statistical groups. You can use those reports again to create groups of items to see statistical transactions across multiple schools throughout the system. Also, any report can be scheduled, as I mentioned a moment ago. I'm going to go back and I'm going to rerun a report here that typically takes a little bit longer to run, but it ran quicker than I anticipated today. So I'm going to choose the rerun and prompt me again option. And I just want to show that this dialog box which appears. Please wait, we're working. You can choose to select a delivery method. So if a report is anticipated by the system to take more than 30 seconds to execute, you'll be notified on the fly the option to have this report delivered to you later via a file saved to your computer or emailed to you at the email address you enter here. Now you can see in the moment I took to talk about that, it actually completed the report. But again, if a report is running and you would like to move it to the background, you can go ahead and on the fly enter the email information or choose the location for the report to be saved to your PC. And as one more reminder, if there's a report you cannot find, simply go to the search box and start typing in your search. This will then present you a relevancy rank result of reports and also the folders in which they are located. So if you see a report, so interlocation items checked out, that would again be handy for your ILLs between schools. But if it's not exactly maybe the title of the report you had in mind, you can actually go to the folder and see what other folders or reports are stored in those folders. So again, it's a relevancy ranked way to locate reports you may be looking for, and then also see the folders in which they are stored. Okay, those are our top reports, most common and popular reports based on customer feedback. So at this time, we're going to switch over and take a look at inventory, and I think Ria may have a poll question for us.
I do. Thank you, Philip. So in just a minute, behind the scenes, Justin's going to be launching a poll for us. It says, how often does your library system run inventory? So as we're moving into this inventory section, we would like to hear from you all. How often does that take place? Is it at least once a semester, once a year, maybe every few years, or maybe it's been a little bit longer than that, if ever? We kind of see all variations of options. So while you all are answering that poll question, Philip, maybe you could answer a question I have. So as you were presenting on all of those reports, I noticed that a couple of reports you had a different naming convention. Are libraries able to change the name of the reports if they're saving those?
Yeah, that's a good question from whoever that came from there. Yes, you can edit the name of the report simply by clicking on the title report and clicking the little multifunction button. You have the option to edit the report name. So if you find a report that you like and you think it would be easier to find or locate later by yourself or other colleagues, you can always rename the report and also, again, create those shortcuts in the same location by using the multifunction button at the far right of the report title.
Perfect. Thanks, Philip. And that gave us just enough time for our results to come back. So it looks about like 73% of those listening today do an inventory once a year. That is great. All right, back over to you.
All right, thanks, Ria. So that is really good to hear. If you're able to get inventory in once a year or even every other year, that's really, really good news. Good to hear. The invention of our real-time inventory several years ago, and now the evolution over to Ls2 inventory has made it much easier, quicker, and more efficient for our customers to conduct inventory. The days of scanning barcodes and then offloading a file and hoping your offload is successful are now gone. You can run inventory in real time via the Ls2 inventory interface. And if you're not up to date on your TLC versions, we're looking at version 5.64, which is the newest version. 5.7 comes out sometime this summer, but your newest version that we're looking at here, inventory is actually included with an Ls2 cataloging. So I'm going to pause here for just a second. If you're not up to date, you may wonder why inventory is in the cataloging interface. Well, TLC had an idea, had a notion that inventory and cataloging actually are very closely related when it comes to collection development, collection management, inventory control, etc. And our customer feedback helped us to confirm this. So inventory is now a tab within Ls2 cataloging. The other thing I want to point out is that inventory is also a user access permission. So you can give staff members and your teacher librarians access to inventory, but not give them full access to the cataloging interface. So they may be able to conduct inventory or add or edit items, but you don't have to worry about anyone working at the title or authority level if they are an inventory user. You can, in fact, even have volunteers or student helpers that have purely inventory access, and the only thing they can do is contribute to an inventory and not touch any other piece of Ls2 cataloging. So that, that's just one thing I wanted to point out here, because they have now become kind of one and the same, but they are still based purely and exclusively upon user permissions. Another advancement we have had with Ls2 inventory over the previous version, real-time inventory, is the ability for multiple staff members to assist with inventory. And we've also expanded the ability for multi-collection inventory. So I'm going to go ahead and just start a very small inventory process to show you how this works. So we'll begin. I will choose to create an inventory job, and I'm going to choose what collections we're going to inventory. I have an inventory collection, conveniently called inventory. And then we have an award winner collection that I created as well. So you can see you can choose multiple collections. This is handy if you're grouping items. Maybe you have your young adult fiction and your manga all grouped together, but they technically have a different collection code or holdings code, but you have them mixed together in the shelves, or you've put your multilingual items together on the shelves and you haven't separated them by standard print, large print, or something like that. This gives you the ability to inventory items just straight across the shelf without having to worry which particular holdings code they're in. You also don't see this in our school customer locations very often, but if there are fines, you can choose to charge overdues here if you like. And we'll go ahead and begin our inventory. Another option we have with Ls2 inventory is you can view items that are scanned by just yourself, or you can uncheck that and you'll be able to see activity by other staff members that are helping. And you can also choose when you are notified by an alert. So an alert for every scan, only for errors, or completely off if you want a completely quiet and silent inventory. So let's go ahead, and you can see right now there are 5 items currently accounted for out of my 14. And this is a new concept as well in Ls2 inventory over the previous RTI. Accounted for means these items are either on hold, checked out, or maybe overdue. So the system is saying, okay, in these 2 collections, we have 14 total items, and we already know the whereabouts of 5. So we're only expecting you to scan technically 9 more. So let's go ahead and scan a few items. All right. There we go. All right, now here is our new alert. This item is currently on hold. It should be taken to circulation for review. We click OK to continue. And you'll notice the cursor immediately jumps back to the scan box. This item can fill a hold. Take it to the checkout counter. It was also previously marked lost, and it's been checked back in and activated for a hold. And we have scanned 12 of our 14 items are now accounted for. And again, you can see we have highlighted those items in red to let you know that there was a problem. And when you're finished your inventory, you can either click review to alert the system that you are done. And this is another upgrade from the previous RTI. You can see in these 2 collections, there are 2 items still outstanding, and those 2 items will be marked missing if I click this button to complete inventory. So we give you a nice big red box, well, big red button, I should say, to alert you to the fact that you are about to mark 2 items missing from your inventory process. Now I'm gonna skip that for now. I'll choose close, because clicking close or clicking back to progress will pause your inventory and allow you to resume it at a later time. So let's go back in and I will complete the inventory this time. 2 items are missing. Inventory was complete, and you can see it has now moved me to my inventory history tab. 2 items were marked missing, and this is the date the inventory was conducted. You can see previously I conducted an inventory for this collection. No items were missing, and you do also have the option to then go back and review. Another upgrade from the previous versions of inventory is, let's say you have made a mistake. You now have the option to revert status and undo that inventory. So you can undo your previous inventory if you accidentally completed it early and marked items missing. 2 might not be a big number, but if it was 222, you might want to go back and do that over. So you get the option to revert statuses, and that will undo your inventory. And those 2 items have now been marked back to non-inventory. So you now have the option to go back and complete your collection without marking those items missing. One last thing I'd like to point out within inventory is with a recent upgrade to library.solution, we have now enabled RFID to update the last seen date of your items. So if you are a customer that uses RFID with our TechLogic products, your RFID will now update your last seen item date so that your check-ins and checkouts via RFID also become part of your inventory and collection management process. That is everything I have for the inventory process itself. We're going to jump over to Ls2 Cataloging to look at one more way we can use some other tools to work on end-of-year tasks.
So Philip, while you're switching over to cataloging, we do have one more poll that we would like to ask everybody. And this is, how does your library system catalog new items? So do you have a centralized cataloging model where maybe at one building, someone or a team takes care of all the cataloging? Or maybe each school is responsible for cataloging their own collections. Possibly it's a combination of the two. Or if you're not sure, there's an option for you as well. So while we're waiting for those results to come in, Philip, I was gonna say it's great that we have the option for both the RFID and the scanning. And every time you were scanning barcodes, I feel like that chirping, that boop noise is such a flashback for me. It's like, I think that's my ASMR sounds like. So pleasing. All right, we do have our results in. About 50% are responsible within their own schools for cataloging, and then it's a split 25-25 for either centralized or a combination. All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to pass it back over to you, Philip.
All right, thanks. Okay, the last thing I want to point out here is this feature has been available in Ls2 Cataloging since just about the launch, but it has grown and expanded with the last several updates and releases. What I want to point out here is a feature within advanced searching. Now, if you're familiar with Ls2 Staff, advanced searching is actually really similar to list and actions in Ls2 Staff. But this gives us a little bit more title and item level control and some more ways to browse and discover and locate items within your collection, and also gives you a little bit more actionable items to conduct after the fact. The example I wanted to show here, and this is something I got from feedback working with a few school customers when we were at AASL back in November in Salt Lake. I was talking to a couple of folks during the conference, and they told me they were now using this as a way to assist with collection maintenance. So that is the status searching feature. You can search by items that are missing, and then you can choose what type of missing if you like, or select all missing statuses by default. And again, a missing status, as a refresher, a lost item would be something that has gone from a long overdue to a lost with an automated process, or the item has been manually marked lost, manually marked lost by a staff member. The student says, I don't know where that book is, I can't find it. They'll manually mark it lost. Missing would be something like it was overlooked in inventory, it was marked as missing staff action, so that's an excused loss, like a student says, I already brought your book back, I never had that item. Those missing staff actions, or anytime you create a manual status in library.solution under the missing status activity, you have the option to then run reports on that aside from lost items that were marked lost due to an automated system process. So with all that being said, I'm going to use the missing item status filter, and we're going to limit this down to, I'm going to just choose my location so I'm not dealing with a big unwieldy list. And right now you can see I'm helping out Arthur Elementary School. So I conducted a search for missing items at Arthur, and I can see that there are currently 35 items missing, or I can switch over and see that those 35 items are associated with a total of 33 titles. But again, I'm working with collection and item maintenance, so I'm going to go back to that item tab. As you scroll down here, we can see that we have items missing. So missing items, again, if an item is simply showing as missing, that is due to an inventory process. Let's expand that out. I think I might have one or two others as examples here. I tried to manually set up a few of these earlier today, and it looks like the manual setting didn't take. I apologize. I did mark one or two items missing by staff action. That's okay, we can continue. So what I've done here is I've created a list of missing items. And again, this can be used for collection development. So I can select all these items. So let's go ahead and select, and let's add these to one of my workspaces. And I'm going to create a new workspace, and these are Arthur Elementary missing items. Sorry, folks, getting used to a new keyboard here. Let's just use the spell check. There we are. We're adding to that workspace. And once that move has taken place, we're going to get a notification in the corner letting us know that we've moved those 35 items to the item space. And that pop-up, if you're not familiar, these pop-ups are also shortcuts to your workspace. So I click on that, and now I'm in Arthur Elementary missing items. So this will give me now a list that I can go back and work with at a later time instead of running that search again. So I may want to go through here and take a look at the items and find out, okay, would I like to order these again? Or maybe these items, okay, they've been marked missing, and I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to say these 35 missing items, you know what? They're gone. I look at them, I review them. I'm not interested in ordering them again. So what I might want to do at this point is export them to a mark file, because I'm going to send those holdings out to a third-party collection development company like a Collection HQ, or maybe I'm sharing holdings with OCLC. I'm going to export that file to let them know I no longer have these items. Or with the Collection HQ example, it may be, here's a bunch of my items that are missing. Give me some statistical data based on your industry knowledge and let me know if I should buy more. So you can go look at the items individually. You can work with them via an export. Or if at this point, if I wanted, I could even come in here and I could batch edit these items if I wanted to. I could come in and conduct batch edit to those items that are missing. Maybe I want to move them to a missing shelf location because I think they might turn up again one day. I can move them into a special collection code of missing, so I'm not actually deleting them from the system. So there's a lot of different options for working with items that are marked missing in the system once you have identified them. The last thing I'll point out here is you can see that my background process is now done. I have a notification, one item, and that is my mark file of 33 records are now ready for export. I can then download, or if I no longer need it, I can delete the file. Ria, I think that covers the last part I wanted to take a look at in Ls2 cataloging. I think we are ready. We have one more poll question, is that correct?
Yeah, we do. And the last poll, this is what we ask at the end of every webinar before we go into the questions. So if you have a question for us, please go ahead and add those into the panel now. And we want to know if you want more information from TLC. So especially if you're on an older version and seeing 564 gave you some ideas about what you can do with inventory, or if you're not currently a TLC customer and would like more information about how you can also get some of these processes in your space, go ahead and hit that yes. Please contact me on the poll and we will be in touch following the webinar. So we'll leave that up for just a moment, give everyone an opportunity. And while that's on screen, we have had a couple of questions come in so far. This first one came in during inventory. So when reverting an inventory, does it just revert the items marked missing, or does it essentially cancel the entire inventory that you just completed?
That is actually reverting the inventory.
Okay, so
I'm
if it does,
99% certain on that one, Rhea. So if we might want to follow up just to be certain, because I know the original version, it was a full reversion of the inventory. I'm not sure if that has changed. So let's make sure we get them the correct information. But to my knowledge, it does revert that whole inventory job.
okay. All right, we'll double check that and get back to you with an answer on that one. We also had someone ask, you had mentioned that specific people can have access to just inventory and not the rest of cataloging. Where are those permissions set in the system?
Sure. That is in Ls2 preferences. That is underneath the circulation user roles. So you can have a user role that is defined as an inventory user, and a staff member or student volunteer, whomever, can be assigned to that inventory role. So that is a permission via roles and user access. If you have any questions about that, definitely reach out to support. It is something that a local system administrator should have access to. But if for any reason you have problems setting that up or locating it, again, it's in preferences and it's under users and roles. You want to go in and look at the roles for inventory, and then you would create a user access to just that inventory role. But again, any questions about that, please feel free to contact support.
Yep. Thanks, Philip. Let's see, one more question here that I'm seeing so far. So this was back when you were scheduling out reports, and if it took longer than 30 seconds, you could send an email. But you also mentioned being able to schedule reports. Can you speak more to how someone can set up a scheduled report?
Sure. Scheduling reports in the current version, you again simply click the multi-function button, which is the 3 dots to the far right of the title of the report, and you will get an option. Actually, Bria, I think, do we still have a minute or two here? I can show that.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Let me know when you have my screen back.
I'm currently still seeing the poll on my screen, which means it probably just needs to refresh. Can I get someone in the chat to let me know if they're seeing Philip's screen? All right, we'll give it just a second.
Okay. And if for some reason we have technical difficulty in getting back to my screen, I believe there is actually a how-to video on scheduling reports via the LS community site.
Yeah, and I was also going to mention that, yep, someone else is saying it's just the poll right now. All right, we'll leave that. We'll leave that for now, and we'll circle back and maybe provide some information. You said that's available on community. The other thing is you can also reach out to support if you're looking for specific information on scheduling. We talked about that in our webinar 2 weeks ago when Jen and Mike shared some of the end of year processes that support helps with. So that is also a great opportunity to double check that as well. All right, we've gotten a couple more people, yep, just commenting on the poll. So I'm not seeing any other questions yet. So I was going to say, Philip, did you want to finish up with any final thoughts? Anything that our school library should think about as they're heading into the summer vacation, and maybe not a vacation for for a few folks, but any last processes that they should keep in mind?
Yeah, I was just going to wrap up by saying that, there is a lot of different ways and tools and options for your end of year inventory processes that take place. But honestly, conducting an inventory and then simply running the reports for items that are still unaccounted for, like the students with items out that are lost, overdue, or have fine notices still attached, those are some of the probably the strongest but also most basic approaches. So you don't really need, if you don't have the time or don't feel it's necessary, to go through things like going into Ls2 cataloging and creating list of missing items, things like that. That's all available to you in reporting as well. But the advantage there is you may have staff members that can access things like Ls2 cataloging, but don't have access to reports, or can assist with inventory but can't go into cataloging, things like that. So really the best thing to do is just run reports to find out what items are still outstanding. Most importantly, items that may be lost or have fees associated with them, and then doing your best job possible at getting an inventory wrapped up for the year.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And as you were talking, we did get a couple extra questions in as well.
Okay.
Someone has a comment about the call number label function. Since we didn't cover that, would you be able to speak to it?
Call number label function.
Label function.
What's the context there? I apologize. I maybe am misunderstanding.
All right, so the person asking if you wouldn't mind add a little bit more context around that. We did get a second question, so I'll circle back around to that one. So our other question is, when creating an advanced search of missing items and editing those items, it appears to be possible to change the holdings code. But we've been cautioned not to change holdings codes with any status besides IN. Is that okay to do now in cataloging?
So you can still do that. It depends on where it's changed. I know that that's actually a question I believe that surfaced on the listserv a few weeks ago, was about changing item collections with a status other than checked in because they may become in transit. The underlying status for the item will still be missing. It may have an active status of transit. The time that I would see that helpful is if you would like to move items with a missing status into such something like a hidden collection, like storage or not available, without having to delete the items. Then at that point, when you locate the item, you'll be checking it in at that point anyway, and that would then bring it back to an available status. So it depends on how you look at using that process. If the thought is you're going to move it to a hidden collection so they don't circulate, but if the item is located and checked in at the circ desk, it's reverted back to available and would be sent back into an available status. And then at that point, the staff member will be told to move it back to its original collection. So it depends on how you're using it and what you want to use it for. But I think that question is probably stemming from the confusion around transferring items versus changing collections. If you do change a collection that had an item collection status, strike that, reverse it. If you change an item collection with a status other than in, it will be in transit. If an item is checked in or available, it will stay available but become part of that new collection temporarily, depending on how you transferred it. So I think that's probably where that question is coming from. But yes, if an item is missing and you change holdings codes, it will then also be associated with an in transit status.
Okay. Looks like that answered the question, and we did get some clarity around the call number label function. When printing out the call number, it has it on 3 lines instead of 4. For instance, PN123 is on the same line instead of PN, next line 123. Is there a way to fix the line setup besides editing in Adobe?
Yes, so that could be the label configuration. And again, that's in Ls2 preferences under the printing options. Let me take a peek real quick here.
Yeah, while you're looking, we are still seeing the poll, so we won't be able to follow
Okay,
along with that. But if you could
that's fine. I'll
narrate kind of where you end up.
Yep, in Ls2 preferences under system settings, label stock configuration. That's where you can edit the labels for your materials. And you can choose whether that be 1, 2, 3 lines. The other thing to keep in mind too is you may be printing out items that look similar or they could even be identical items all attached to the same title record. But when you're printing out the label at the item level, if you have an item that maybe has a collection prefix stored somewhere other than in the call number line of the item record, you may be seeing a prefix on that previous line and then the call number, which could be your numerical. So you may have an alpha prefix and then a numerical call number. And depending on how it's located in the item record, that may be why you're seeing discrepancies between two similar items. So you might want to take a look at, go into preferences, go under Ls2 settings, and go to your label stock configuration to see if the initial configuration is correct. And if it is, then if you have items that are similar or even identical, but they're printing out differently, you may want to look at each item individually at the item level to see if there's something different with the call number information.
Yep. And then if that doesn't work, you can always reach out to us at support as well, and we can jump in there with an answer too. So got a couple of options available. And that is the last question I'm seeing. So I'll go ahead and wind down and say that before you log out today, please be sure to download those handouts. For those of you who are LS customers, TLC customers, our registration for TLCU went live this week for our annual conference. So be sure to check that out on LS Community. There's links there to be able to register. And also, we don't have our next webinar set up yet, but our archive is available. So check that out at tlcdelivers.com/webinars. And that's also where you'll be able to see the recording of today's webinar. And we'll provide additional information as well for some of those questions we couldn't get to. And then also, if there's webinars that you all would like to see, if you have content that you wish that we could present on, reach out to us anytime. You can respond to your reminder email you get tomorrow. You can reach out to us at info@tlcdelivers.com, and we'd be happy to figure out a way to get that content available to you. So Philip, thank you so much for presenting today. Sorry about our technical difficulties at the
You're
end.
welcome. Oh, no worries. Just one last thing, not webinar related, but me related. If you guys are coming to Texas next week in Fort Worth, come say hello. I'll be there. If you have further questions, I'll also try to get some of these follow-up answers for any folks who might be attending the show.
Yes, thank you. I meant to say that. It fell off my list. Thanks, Philip. So see us at Texas next week. See us at TLCU in the fall, and we'll hopefully see you in the next couple weeks for our next webinar. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you again soon.